Hi guys, welcome back. This is my first appearance on YouTube since giving birth. I'm currently 2 weeks postpartum, and I did say I would make a Q&A video and also postpartum glow up video, but I'm actually going to split them into two. This one will be the Q&A portion where I'm just kind of getting ready for a night out, and by that I mean getting dinner with my husband and father-in-law. And then I'll do the postpartum glow up separately. That will be more of like a weekend vlog of me just like enjoying all the things that I couldn't enjoy during pregnancy, like oysters and such. So yeah, just gonna chat, answer some of your questions while I do my makeup, and then show you the final look, which is this. Let's get ready. So someone said it would be funny if she typed this message 15 minutes after getting out of recovery, referring to the comment that I pinned on one of the Book and Hearth videos that posted while I was still in the hospital. Yeah, that's actually literally what happened. I literally told my husband the day that I gave birth that I would need to pin a comment. And I also told him if something goes wrong with the birth to make sure to pin the comment for a sponsor, because I wanted to make sure that we still get compensated for that even if I die. Bit grim, but that's how it went. Hoping for a video on your birthing experience and your feelings as a new mom. And then same person also asked, how did you feel about the C-section? How did your recovery go? Will you consider VBAC, vaginal birth after C-section, or another C-section for any ulterior pregnancy? Yeah, so my experience was pretty positive. Can't say I really have too many complaints. So obviously I did ultimately choose to have a C-section, and that was because it just seemed safer for the baby. Hey, editing Anna here, pitching in to add something. So the moment when I decided to have a C-section was actually right after the unsuccessful ECV, where they tried to turn the baby manually out of a breech position. The ECV was very painful and moreover just made me worried for the baby quite a lot. I was literally in tears while they were trying to turn the baby. And a lot of it was just fear of the potential risks that could happen. And while I was being monitored afterwards, baby's heart rate also dipped at one point, and that was really scary. And so as soon as the ECV was over, I said, fuck this. No, I'm doing a C-section. I don't care if you guys are comfortable with natural delivery of breech babies. This just seems too risky. I kept getting a lot of push from local doctors for doing a natural delivery, but given that there were just some risks associated with that for the baby, I didn't really understand what the push was about. And ultimately it just came down to, wanting to minimize the risks for the baby. And I am glad that I did that in the end, because the baby was 50th percentile in terms of weight, and that was at like 38 weeks when the C-section was scheduled. So if I had waited for baby to come naturally, who knows how big they would have gotten. The risk there is that if they get stuck, they can't use forceps, and then the baby loses oxygen. And so ultimately I am glad that I did the C-section. Baby was, perfect weight to come out. Everything went smoothly. Recovery was also pretty smooth. As I learned, yeah, C-section is kind of hardcore. I mean, it is a major surgery. They cut through like 7 layers of you. But like, it was only really the first day that was kind of intense for me. The first day I couldn't be even at like a 45-degree angle without getting extremely nauseous and having a lot of vertigo. But after the first day, all that I really felt was just kind of pain at the incision site when laughing or sneezing or trying to get out of bed. And I didn't even really need to take a lot of pain medications. Even once I came home from the hospital, I completely forgot about all the pain medications they gave me. And even, currently I'm at 2 weeks postpartum. I feel completely back to normal. I feel like I should be able to resume everything that I was doing before. I feel like I should be able to work out. Everyone keeps telling me to hold off on it. I've been incorporating some gentle movement in there illicitly. I didn't think it was that bad. Something else that people had warned me about with a C-section was that your belly would take longer to go down. And that also was not my experience. I remember like immediately after the surgery, I tapped my belly and it felt pretty flat, and I was like, is this real? I can put some footage on screen of what it looked like in the days following the C-section. I share this with you because, like many people, I've seen the viral TikToks of women saying your body will never be the same after giving birth, sharing horror stories of how swollen their faces got during pregnancy, sharing footage of how long it took for their belly to go back down. And while that is definitely an experience that some women have, it's not necessarily representative of how you will do during and after pregnancy. There's a reason these things go viral, because there is a shock value to some of them, but there's simply no way of knowing the way your specific body will respond to pregnancy. Maybe your body will never be the same, maybe it will. Everyone is different. So if you're seeing these very fear-mongering videos on your For You page, I just want to provide a different perspective to sort of balance out the negativity, because it is not all as negative as the internet would have you think it is. Feelings as a new mom. First few days I was exhausted. It was like being waterboarded every half an hour. And luckily, my husband and I quickly realized that we cannot be on call, both of us, 100% of the time. What works a lot better is if we each take 6 hours in the night shift. So he takes 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. and I take 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. And that immediately helped so much with the fatigue, because instead of both being kind of on call at like 90% effort 100% of the time, now it's more like we're both 100% on call for 50% of the time, and that is a lot more doable. Now, in addition to just being tired, after getting back home, I was just kind of trying to figure out how to keep everything organized and keep everything in order, because babies are very time consuming, and I get what I call the brain scramblies when things are not tidy around me. But we did like a few different rounds of reorganizing and cleaning around the house, and I feel a little bit better about things now. I feel like things are a little bit more manageable. It was just kind of chaotic in the first few days to like figure out where to put all of baby's new things, because we had to get like more furniture, and even though we had set up like the baby's space and everything, there was just still more to do. So those first few days were also a little bit chaotic coming back from the hospital. But other than that, other than the exhaustion and the brain scramblies, very happy, obviously. It's still kind of surreal. I think that probably it starts to feel real the more you interact with people in your new identity as a parent, because right now, just like being at home, I can't say I feel terribly different. I feel like you feel different the more you say I'm a mother or I'm a parent to people, or the more people perceive you that way. I feel like it's more of a social construct. I remember even like after getting married, the first 20 times I referred to my husband as my husband, it felt like surreal, it felt not real. And you start to get adjusted to it the more you engage with people in that new role, in that new identity. And yes, I do hope to try for a natural delivery next time, and that's because I'm still very much curious what that experience is like. I feel like it's a sense of kinship with like all the billions of women that came before me to be able to experience that. And so I'm still curious about a natural unmedicated birth, if possible, if it's in the cards for me in the future with the next child. But if it's not, and I have to have a C-section again, then like I said, it went pretty smoothly. I would be perfectly fine with that as well. It would just kind of feel like, man, like I really wish I'd had this fundamental female experience to like know what it's like. Someone is asking, did you take prenatal vitamins during pregnancy? Because they found out that some of the folic acid in them can be toxic. Yes, I did take multivitamins, and I realized like pretty close to the end that it didn't contain iron. I realized that when I found out that I was pretty much anemic. So then I had to go in and supplement with additional iron, and also my folic acid was also kind of low, so I had an additional prescription of folic acid. Cannot speak to prenatal vitamins and toxicity and anything like that. All I can say is I couldn't believe that the prenatal vitamin I was taking did not contain iron. Any tips for future mothers? Well, it's still very early on, but one thing I would say is, like I mentioned, take shifts with your partner instead of just both doing everything 100% of the time. And then also pick a very supportive and involved partner. I think that makes a lot of difference, because I keep seeing now all these like postpartum rage videos on TikTok, and I cannot relate to them. I do not feel rage towards my partner, and I'm convinced that a lot of this postpartum rage phenomenon is just women dealing with partners who do not pull their weight postpartum. Any tips on how to cope with the fear of birth, the fear of something happening to the baby? Well, what I did was I wrote a book about it because I was worried even before getting pregnant about miscarriage and SIDS. And I wrote a book where I literally made the protagonist go through the things that I feared. And it helped me realize that, like, even if the worst case scenario does happen, you know, you can always work through it. And also something else about SIDS specifically, it is definitely a fear that I have, of course, like I think most parents, but you have to remember that it is also rare. And it gets a lot of attention because it's incredibly tragic when it does happen, incredibly sad, but it's not as common as you might think. I think it's like 1 in several thousand babies end up passing away of SIDS. And I ran some numbers, and if you take all the safety precautions, such as, you know, safe sleeping, not being a smoker, like all of these different things, then you decrease your risk of your baby dying of SIDS to like 1 in 80,000 or something like that. So if you are taking all the precautions in the world that you can, doing everything within your control, that risk way goes down. It's not guaranteed that it's going to be 0, but if you're doing everything you can, realize that this is actually remarkably rare.
And also we do use the Owlet ankle bracelet sock thing, which tells you if the baby's oxygen drops or if their heart rate drops or rises to a dangerous level. Not that that does anything really for prevention, except that you can, you know, go up and give them CPR if necessary. But it does help with peace of mind, just being able to sleep through the night, because I know if for some reason baby does stop breathing, I will be alerted about it.
And also, babies are resilient. They are very resilient. There were some stressful things that happened during my pregnancy, and my baby turned out absolutely amazing, with just like the sweetest temperament, incredibly healthy, you know, like couldn't be better. So, you know, I get why like it's very tempting to assume that babies are fragile, because they are fragile, but they're also very resilient. And think about like mother cats who are always like trampling over their newborn kittens while they're trying to feed. Human babies are actually quite sheltered in comparison to other animals out there in the animal kingdom. Good luck on recovering from your C-section. I've had 3 babies and have been very grateful to never had to experience a C-section. As challenging as postpartum recovery can be, I always thought it sounded way harder to recover from a C-section. So I can't speak to which one is worse because I've only had a C-section. Like I said, I hope for a natural delivery for my next baby. I will say they just seem different to me. You know, like a natural delivery seems really painful when you're going through it, but then it seems kind of easier to bounce back, assuming you don't have any major tearing. Whereas C-section is obviously painless, ideally, while you're going through it, but a little bit more hardcore in terms of its recovery immediately afterwards. Although, like I said, I found it to be not that bad in terms of recovery. I think they both just kind of have like advantages and disadvantages, but I don't know, maybe moms who've had both can speak to what they think is the difference. What do you think is the best way that family and friends can support new parents in the postpartum period? And how have the cats responded to the baby and the shift in attention? Okay, so question number 1, the best way the family and friends can support new parents postpartum is, I think, cooking or bringing food, because my God, there's just no time for cooking postpartum, helping out with cleaning, looking after the baby if the parents are comfortable with it for short periods of time while they need to, you know, take a shower, tidy up, run errands or something like that. And just generally like not be super like pushy or entitled about like wanting to see the baby or wanting to come over immediately or wanting to text or video call all the time, because it's a very stressful period. You think that, you know, parents are just hanging out at home doing nothing, but the whole day gets filled up. Like I can barely do even like the smallest to-do list every single day. So the last thing I need from people is pushiness about my time and energy. As for number 2, the cats have been pretty unfazed. They are interested, like they're not scared of the baby whatsoever, but they also keep a safe distance. So it's like honestly been perfect. They're neither overly interested nor scared. They seem to have immediately kind of recognized baby as part of the family and to recognize that babies are fragile. Like before the baby arrived, they would always sleep in the bassinet, and now they have not tried to. I mean, they sometimes like look at the baby in the bassinet, but they have never tried like climbing in there. So very blessed to have 2 wonderful cats who just immediately know what to do. And they still come to cuddle. I wouldn't say we give them less attention than before. It's just our routine looks a little bit different. We're spending a lot more time in bed, which also means they come spend a lot more time in bed with us. So this one's like not really a question, but it's just something very odd that I thought I would acknowledge. This is in reference to what I said in my previous video about how there's like a specific flavor of misogyny that I've been receiving during pregnancy. And this person says, your content has been giving alt-right pipeline for a while now, although I'm sure a lot of people's comments are coming from a place of misogyny. I'm not really sure how those two parts of that sentence are connected. And only thing I can think of is that this person's saying, well, of course you're experiencing misogyny because you're giving alt-right pipeline. Hey, so I genuinely can't tell if this is a joke. I've spoken about my political views pretty recently and how I'm actually socially quite progressive and libertarian. Fiscally, I am smack dab in the middle. I'm not sure how this person meant this comment, but I think anyone who thinks I'm down the alt-right pipeline or that I'm far left, because I get them both, honestly, is typically so deep in their own echo chamber that they think anything left or right of them is extreme. Even when, like, objectively speaking, I am like middle of the political compass. Like, I've racked my brain trying to understand what this could possibly be in reference to. Is it the fact that I'm a proponent of taking responsibility for yourself, or that I dislike having a victim complex, or that I value resilience, or that I'm like a mother, so like I'm stepping into a more like traditional role now? Like, I don't know what it is that's giving alt-right pipeline, but I find it to be a very concerning slippery slope argument that like anything right of me or anything left of me is automatically a slippery slope to the far right or the far left. Could you go into more detail about what you mean when you say you've done a lot of work mentally preparing for the weight gain? I'm wondering if it is that you anticipated you might feel shocked when seeing your weight increase and did something to prepare for that specifically, or is it that you've done a lot of work in the process of overcoming an ED and it's had a lasting effect? So maybe it's not so much a matter of like doing the work, but rather just I have a history of being so distressed from seeing the number on the scale grow back when I did have an ED. My surprise during pregnancy when the number on the scale went up just felt so insignificant in comparison. Yeah, I think it was just a matter of, you know, having done the work to overcome my ED. It wasn't anything specific that I did in relation to pregnancy. I think the main thing is just now I recognize it is all temporary. And that was the thing that when I had an ED, I couldn't wrap my head around was I wanted to look a certain way now. I couldn't accept the fact that my body didn't look the way that I wanted it to look that very second. And when I had my acceptance epiphany was when I recognized, okay, I don't have the body I want to have right now, but I have to still enjoy the present moment. And if I genuinely want to change my body in XYZ way, then I could make moderate, healthy choices to get myself to that body that isn't so extreme because I cannot stand feeling this way right now in the present moment. And I think that same outlook helped during pregnancy is just remembering that it is all very temporary. Just understanding that like when the number goes up on the scale, most of it is not fat stores. And even if it is, you know, I kept active until the very last day of pregnancy. I ate intuitively without eating for two, without like giving in to emotional cravings. I really didn't feel any physical cravings, and therefore I didn't feel like I needed to emotionally binge in any way either. I also reminded myself that when you're nursing, that burns a ton of calories. And so just don't worry about it too much. So that's, I think, the main mindset shift that helped me going into pregnancy was just remembering it's all temporary. If you don't like your body after pregnancy, then you can make healthy choices. You can practice moderation to get your body back to where you want it to be. But most likely, it's all temporary. It's wonderful that you were able to enjoy your pregnancy. I'm happy to hear that you've been able to have such a healthy and happy response to your body changing. I suspect that you were able to be fairly relaxed throughout because you have a healthy support system and a good marital relationship. I think a lot of the hormonal behavior people talk about is actually just the same behavior one has when overwhelmed. I personally think it's quite reasonable for a pregnant person to feel more overwhelmed at baseline than they otherwise would be. Hormones are just the excuse other people use to invalidate the experience of the pregnant person. Yes, I completely agree. And I'm very blessed that I have a very supportive husband. Unfortunately, we didn't have like a huge support system this past year where we live because we're kind of in a temporary, very rural place. But the partner you pick plays a huge role, I think. And also, you know, during pregnancy, I attributed my mellowness to being pregnant, and I expected to get the baby blues afterwards because of the sudden drop in hormones. But I actually haven't gotten the baby blues yet, knock on wood, and I think the takeaway from this is it was never about the hormones. It was never about something biological happening to me. I think it's just that I'm in a much better place now than I used to be in the past. And it's not all because of hormones. It's that I've done a lot of work on myself to be a more emotionally regulated person. Sorry, I needed to temporarily change out of that shirt because I think it's like polyester or something, and it is making me so hot. So temporarily wearing this Bella, where the hell you been, Loca shirt. And then I will change back into my outfit for the night. Can you please tell me about your skincare routine? Yes, I will do that in a different video on just like postpartum glow up, where I talk about how now I'm able to do all the things I couldn't do during pregnancy, and that includes using certain skincare ingredients. How are you doing with your routine? Did you manage to successfully integrate the child into your life? So I'm still just 2 weeks in, so I'm sure things are going to continue to evolve with every week very rapidly. My routine is fucked. It's completely fucked. I barely have time to like have breakfast, or, you know, I haven't journaled in forever. I feel good about myself if I even manage to do my Italian for the day. Maternity leave for me is like complicated because I did schedule videos 2.5, almost 3 months out on my main channel, my Psychology with Dr. Anna channel. So I have like a little bit of a buffer, but obviously like I'm here now, I'm recording, this is technically kind of working, but I'm also doing it for pleasure. Like Book and Hearth is more of a passion project for me. I don't really see it as work, even though like it kind of is. So I'm on maternity leave, but I'm also kind of not. I'm not doing a great job of staying away from work. And my husband is starting like a big major contract for his marketing freelance soon. So probably for about a month, it's going to be mainly me taking care of the baby during the day. And then once I run out of videos, I'm going to go back to trying to find some sort of semblance of a routine. What we plan is, since I'm more productive in the morning, he's more productive in the afternoon. He's going to take care of the baby during the morning while I work, and then we flip in the afternoon. So kind of like daytime shifts, similar to how we do nighttime shifts. So hopefully that works out because, I mean, it has to. We're very blessed that we both work from home, that we both work for ourselves. But at the same time, that means that I don't get maternity leave, I don't get maternity pay, and neither does he. And last question, have you and your husband decided to avoid pushing gender stereotypes? If yes, any tips about that? So when I was like a teenager, I remember I used to think like, if I have a girl and a boy, I want to raise them exactly the same. I want it to be like completely gender neutral in every way. And later, as I like grew into my 20s, I realized you don't have to do that. You don't have to like push gender on them, but you also don't have to push gender neutrality on them, because I think sometimes if a child does take part in certain stereotypical gender behaviors, that can be an opportunity for bonding with the same-sex parent. What I will most definitely not be doing is pushing gender roles on any of the children I have in the future. And I think particularly what that means for me is like not pushing any like sex-related stereotypes. For a girl, I wouldn't emphasize purity culture like people sometimes do, like, you know, they go really hard like overprotecting girls sexually and then like encourage it in boys. Won't be doing any of that. I think like, you know, if you have a girl, it's okay to like enjoy girly things with a girl. And if you have a boy, it's okay to enjoy more like stereotypically boyish things with them. As long as you're not pressuring them into it, you know, because if you have a girly girl and you're a girly girl, then you can bond over that. But if you have a more tomboy girl and you are a girly girl mom, don't push your child to be someone they're not, because that's not supportive and that's not loving them for who they are. So I know that probably sounds a little vague right now, but that's just like my overall approach with like gender stereotypes. It's like, I'm not gonna push any, but I'm also not gonna shy away from, you know, enjoying stereotypically gendered things if the kid is into it. All right, so I'm done with my makeup, so let me change into my outfit for the night. This is gonna be my first time wearing jeans in so long. I'm kind of excited, so let's see what happens. Okay, so this is the final look. I don't know if like the shirt really works with the jeans, but I don't have time to change it right now because we're running late to dinner reservations. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. If you have other questions, feel free to pop them down below and I'll try to do my best to answer them. And stay tuned for that postpartum glow up video, because that will be more of like a fun weekend vlog, weekend in the life type video. See you then.
Tell me